next speaker is Anna Brees. Anna is a former mainstream journalist who has worked for the BBC, ITV, and in 2017, she set up an independent media training company focusing on video techniques. She helped create a directory of businesses opposed to vaccine passports. Anna, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm not used to doing this. I'm very relaxed talking to camera on my mobile, but actually speaking to a room full of people, I am very nervous. So, againstVaccinePassports.com, I have to say thank you to the regional reps. We've got a couple of them here. It's a business directory we put together. I'm not really going to mention that now because this is about the media, but do have a look at that if you're based in the UK or Ireland. We've got psychotherapists on there, vets, estate agents. They signed up to the directory, which is now called AVP Remain Free. But I really do think we need to continue building that business directory because we don't really know what's coming. And it's a place where we can connect with people locally. You will find a business, definitely, locally. We had a huge, it's still there. It's ready to kick it off again if we need it. But anyway, I want to talk about the future. Seeing Mark for the first time, Del Bigtree, Neil Oliver, Majid, Tess. It's very, very emotional. I'm sure a lot of you feel this. I know the last 2 years have been just the most incredible time of my life and a lot of our lives. And to see the people that kind of kept us going, it's overwhelming. It's been overwhelming to see you guys, to meet you in the flesh. You're real people, and that's the power of new media and mobiles. You can build that relationship of trust with people, can't you? You saw me running into the protests. There's a lady came up to me and she said, I've been following you since the beginning. Those first protests, I remember I got lost and I ended up parking by Harrods and walking to Trafalgar Square. And I just threw myself into the crowd with my mobile phone and a microphone. And there were Byline TV were there just to smear. They were trying to find the QAnon signs and the conspiracy theorists. And the pictures of Bill Gates and the extreme kind of political views, right-wing views, and I walked around and they were just lovely, normal people. You know, there was a chef who just lost his job, a £60,000 a year job, was living on his savings. There was a guy who sold bathrooms. There was a guy that worked at the BBC. He was a history teacher, you know, and no one was really capturing those important voices. And that was, Mark Sharman, I've got to know. It was embarrassing, wasn't it, Mark? It was really embarrassing as a journalist to see that taking place. It actually doesn't matter what we're talking about, the COVID, vaccination, lockdown. The only reason I'm really here is we didn't have debates. That's why I'm here. Yeah. It was horrific. I didn't think I lived in a world like that. So all I want to talk about really is, you know, how do we all know each other? How do I know about Geert van den Bosch? Because he put something on LinkedIn to start with, and everyone on Twitter. Robert Malone from YouTube, Tess Lowry, I think, the video that you did, Tess, beginning to Boris Johnson, was one of the first, wasn't it, that went around on Twitter. So we've all connected on what we're calling social media and alternative media, but I want to challenge that language. If I don't do anything else today, I really want you to think about the words that you're using. So what's the power and potential of mobile journalism? That's what I do now, training. BBC journalists are filming and editing on their mobiles. I saw a Telegraph reporter in Canada, clearly did her whole report on a mobile. There's a girl I used to work with at ITV, working for Good Morning Britain. She did a piece on vaccines. That was on a mobile. So it's a level playing field. And some kind of the basics I can teach you about audio and lighting and kits. There's no reason, with a little bit of training, you can't do what they're doing. It's a level playing field, and it comes down then to trust. So, what is new media all about? Exposing the failings of the old media. Brett has said about science, it's going to take a generation. It's going to take a generation, okay? This isn't going to happen overnight. We've got to work on this. We've got to look forward and think about how we build trust in new media. So can I have the next slide? So Dr. John Campbell, I think he's speaking tonight. So I want to talk about YouTube. I lost my YouTube channel when I covered a protest in April. I did a very balanced piece. I spoke to people in Hyde Park who were for vaccine passports and people who were against, and that was the day I lost my YouTube channel, which still struggle with. But anyway, there have been people who've survived on YouTube. And Dr. John Campbell, 2.3 million subscribers. He can get up to 1 million views on some of his videos. Next slide, please. Russell Brand, just growing and growing, isn't he? 5.6 million subscribers. Easily get us again 1 million views on some of his videos. Next slide. Mr. Beast, my son told me about Mr. Beast. Look at Mr. Beast. I think I've got it written down here. How many subs does he have? He's got 96 million subscribers. And that video about Squid Game, I sat and watched it with my son, and within an hour it had 10 million views. Now what I would say is this is the future, yeah? These are the global influencers and the media channels of the future that we need to keep an eye on. Forget the BBC, guys. This is massive in that age group. And it's not very good. You've got to watch it, though. Very, very powerful, and it's global, and that's where we are going with the global media. Next slide. I did an interview with Matt Letizia. I'm not really enjoying the interviews anymore because I get very upset. In fact, seeing Pierre Corey and the interview I did with him and Tess, I knew I was the end of my YouTube channel. I kept getting strikes. So I did an interview with someone called David Rose, who was the Mail on Sunday at the time. He also used to work for the BBC and the Observer. And the reason I added David Rose to the interview with Tess and Pierre Corey is I knew that YouTube were less likely to take it down. And I was having to constantly come up with these strategies to survive on the different platforms. It was a crazy, crazy game. And when I saw Pierre's slide of the Twitter, you lose Twitter, and then you go to Facebook, and then you go to YouTube, and you were constantly trying to use different platforms to keep the message out there. But anyway, Matt Letizia, that got about 100,000 views across my platforms. But what I wanted to say about that, it was a very important interview because of what happened to Matt with ITV and the Channel Islands where I used to work. Have a look at the interview if you've got time. It really upset me, it shocked me, because he's a brave man. And he said in an article in The Sun, he said, "I will not stop." He just said, "I will never stop." He's had so much abuse. And I thought, I just think that's so inspiring. But what I was going to say about this is you can boost on Facebook videos, and a lot of people don't know that. It's really, really incredibly powerful. In fact, the video I did yesterday, I boosted on Facebook for $50, reaching 7,000 people, unique new people, and 400 website link clicks. It's that kind of thing I like teaching people. Yeah, it's a new audience. Do it with something that's reaching, is getting a good organic share. That's how you do it. And then you put a little bit of money behind it, and you can literally decide where that audience is, how old they are, and various other things. Next slide, please. So I really want to quickly talk about Barb. If you don't know who Barb are, Mark Sharman will know Barb. It's the Broadcasters Audience Research Board, compile audience measure. Basically, this is what everyone goes to find out how many people are watching TV on the TV set, which I call old media. Next slide, please. So this was the latest data I had, but it doesn't change a huge amount, actually. The top 50 programs watched on the television set in the UK during that period. So we've got the highest news programs, BBC News at 6, 3.7 million. Next slide, please. We've also got ITV News coming up, which Mark used to be basically in charge of. He took on Julie Etchingham, who reads ITV Evening News. Mark's behind signing her. And there she is, with all the others at ITV News, about 3 million. Next slide. So the reason I put that up there is you look at the viewing figures of Russell Brand, yeah, Dr. John Campbell, Neil Oliver, your viral videos on Twitter, they get millions, don't they?
Well, yes, sometimes, but it fluctuates enormously.
Does it?
Yeah, I don't even seek to interrogate that, but or to understand it. But it's amazing how sometimes I think it's the way that the piece is tagged. Just a one word that is inadvertently or not used in titling can drive it in a way.
Well, it's a headline, and this is what I like to teach. You know, it's that really the headline that captures the top shot, but you've got warmth. You know, there's people that you just like, aren't there? Del Bigtree and Oliver, you just like them. You want to watch them. Russell Brand is doing very well. I mean, this is the future, the influencers. It's about being really open and honest, talking to your audience and really showing what your values are. And that's the voice that will grow. And I think it's going to become bigger than news channels. I mean, it is. Look at Joe Rogan and look at Russell Brand compared to the ITV Evening News. So that's what we've got to start thinking about and changing the language. We call it, all weekend we've been calling it the mainstream media, yeah? It's the big thing that they've got is they've got that history of trust. You people like my mum, I know people at the BBC who, I know lots of whistleblowers at the BBC. I would talk to my mum about it, but she'll love the BBC till the day she dies, even though I've told her so much about what's been going on at the BBC. People in the BBC, I'm running out of time, sent me photographs. With the big protester outside New Broadcasting House, I've got a photograph of one of the reporters inside looking at the protesters. They were embarrassed, guys, they really are. But we have a chance to change. So I really would just encourage you all to start using different language, whatever you want to call it. I say old media, new media. But if we're calling ourselves the underdog, if we keep calling ourselves alternative or social media. So that's really what I wanted to get across. Thank you.
I'd like to suggest a principle that is responsive to what we've just heard. And the principle is read the books they wish to burn, right? We can beat censorship. This one's actually easy. The way you do it is you make sure that anything they try to censor gets wider view than it would have if they hadn't, right? We win if we do that. The second part of the principle is you have to understand that we are all playing against different rules on social media. My channel is still on YouTube because I have big, scary friends, right? I'm not big enough to stay on YouTube, but if they throw me off, it becomes a big deal on Joe Rogan's program, right? Not everybody has that at their disposal. So we have to figure out who has something useful to say, who doesn't have a protective mechanism, and then figure out how to extend it to them. That's how we're going to win. All right, group one, you've done great. Don't take off your microphones. You'll be back up.